Hey guys, welcome to video number 4. The last one you just watched should have been 3.1. If you watched 3, that one's no good. I'm hoping I can delete that one before anybody sees it. So we're going to finish up what the DRS is all about, the green slip, and then I'm going to wrap up and show you what they all have in common so that you can kind of understand how systematic we've got this put together for you. So the final two things is, well, we just talked about green slip in the last video. So the green slip is the most important document. If a customer comes in and says, yeah, they faxed it to my house, that's not going to work. There's only 2 ways to get around having, actually there's 3 ways to get around having the original to the green slip. Number 1, they go to the dealership and they make them a copy, just a white sheet of paper with all the same information on it, and then the dealership will stamp it with a thing that says this is a true and original copy, and the manager, somebody over at the dealership will sign it, and that will take the place of the actual green piece of paper. Number 2, it can be faxed directly to the DMV. I'm not going to give you the fax number on here because that's subject to change. Every department has different rules, and believe it or not, sometimes the DMV gets mad at you for a fax coming to a particular machine, one that they just told you to send a fax to. So I always double check before I have anything sent to the DMV, and most importantly, I allow the dealerships to fax the green slips directly to me, my office, and if we print it out and it's been faxed to us because we're trusted by the state of Nevada, it's been taking years to develop that relationship, the DMV will accept a fax if it was faxed to us. If they fax to the customer, to the UPS store, to FedEx, to the customer's work, whatever, it's going to have different information at the top, the little, where it was faxed to, and the DMV's not going to take it. They're going to assume it's fraud, even though it probably isn't. Look, a whole lot of fraud doesn't get prevented at the DMV with all the crud that they put people through. But nevertheless, people are always trying to, skate the system, so they've got to be articulate about what they allow and what they don't allow. So a fax copy to us or directly to the DMV will work fine, or a photocopy from the dealer stamped, this is a true and certified original, and signed by somebody at the dealership, and that's fine. We don't need the actual green slip at that point. Sometimes people ask, well, am I going to get my green slip back? No, you're not going to get your green slip back. The DMV is going to exchange a green slip for this. And this is simply a Nevada registration. They will give you this and they will keep the green slip. Some people say, well, I want my green slip back. I'm like, well, then you can't have registration, because the only way to get registration is you give up the green slip. It's the same with the title. We'll get into that transaction here in a couple of minutes. So I'm glad I had a registration there to show you that really quick. So we got the green slip covered very well, I believe. And you've always got to make sure in all these documents, one of the main things you always have to look for is, I'll pull this out one more time. I feel like I'm ill-prepared, but you guys will understand. So one of the main things that's important with everything is you got to look at the VIN number. You see that big, long 17-digit number? Some of them are a little bit longer, and some of them are much, much shorter. You got to check the VIN number, and you got to check it versus the name on the registration, or the name on the title, or the name on the ownership document, whether it's a green slip, a purchase agreement, the bill of sale. There's all these things you're going to learn about over time, but you can't learn them all here. Some of them will just come with experience, because there's literally thousands of different scenarios that will come up. But once you learn the basics, you'll be able to figure all that stuff out. The VIN number has to match on all the documents. There are no exceptions. If a 5 looks like an S on 2 different documents, the DMV is not going to accept it. And if you do get it accepted, you might be doing the customer a huge disservice. And here's what I mean. And we're coming into our next point about Nevada proof of insurance. So here's what I mean about Nevada proof of insurance. Once the DMV puts in the computer that you have insurance, every single day, the DMV's computers, spider crawlers or whatever they call them, they go out and they match up all the insurance records in Nevada, and they run all the VIN numbers. So the DMV computer runs a VIN number, and it looks for the same exact VIN number in an insurance database. When it finds a match, it says, okay, these two VIN numbers are the same. Now let's make sure the names on the registration and the insurance are the exact same. If they get a match, they're good. So they match a few things to make sure they're exactly correct. If they don't match because maybe they misspelled the person's name just by one letter, as silly as that sounds, or the VIN number was put in wrong, they missed a letter, or like I said, an S looks like a 5, or a 0 looks like an O, or an L looks like an I. All these little things can happen. If that doesn't get an exact match, a computer cannot discriminate. The computer just simply says, boom, this person with this registration has no insurance. Whoosh, it's suspended, and they charge them a $250 fine for the first day of suspension. And we'll get into those fines later, but those fines can go up into the thousands of dollars, and you can lose your license all over a silly mistake. Yes, sometimes that can be explained away, but it can certainly cause a customer and us in the DMV an enormous amount of grief. So it is so important that we are rigorous about checking all this information to make sure it's correct. We should never walk into the DMV and have the technician hand our paperwork back to us and say, sorry, the VIN numbers don't match. Because what that means is we didn't do our job and check. We always have to do our job and check. Is something going to slip through every now and again? Of course. We get busy. It starts raining in the middle of the day, and we get a million things can happen. But we have to be rigorous. We have to be better than the customer going in and do it themselves. Otherwise, what's the point using us? So, back to green slip. You got to have the green slip, and you got to have Nevada proof of insurance. A few things to look for in the insurance, like I said before, is the VIN number's got to match. It's got to have, I wonder if I have an insurance card handy. My wife is listening to me, so maybe she'll pull one out real quick. But regardless, there's a few things that have to be, insurance card has to be a certain way. The VIN number must match the proof of ownership. The expiration date must be some date after today. And the effective date has to be some day before today. And of course, the name on the insurance has to match the name on the vehicle registration or the title or the green slip or whatever type of document it is you're dealing with. Okay? That's very, very important. Now, there's one thing that I do expect you to know this. There's a thing called an NIAC number. That's a very important number. Most insurance companies do everything just right. Thank you, sweetie. There's no issues at all, and it works perfectly. But if this little number, let's see if I can find it really quick. Policy number, insured, Well, you know what? I don't see the NIAC number. Oh, there it is. It's real tiny. You wouldn't be able to read it. Anyway, well, this is what an insurance card looks like. About. They're all different. Thank you, sweetie. But you got to make sure the VIN number matches first and foremost. And you got to make sure it's effective during the time we're registering the car. Sometimes you'll see an effective date that's not effective for 2 or 3 days. Geico often, their effective date will always be tomorrow. And it's like, dude, you wrote the insurance today. Can't you make it effective today? They're like, oh, well, it's good today, but we can't show that it's good until tomorrow. I've heard this a million times. This is actually a crack-up story. So we're not going to go over insurance anymore. We will do in a later video because I got 1 minute left to talk about what else you might need for a green slip. So what else you need with the green slip is very simple. If the vehicle meets the qualifications for a smog inspection and it's coming from a Nevada dealer, the Nevada dealer legally has to make sure the vehicle passes smog. A smog is only good for 90 days. But here's what lots of customers do. They buy a car and they wait 6 months to register it. Well, the smog the dealer gave them is no good now. Now it's up to the customer to go buy a smog. Obviously, like I said, we may have our own smog shop by the time you're reading this or watching this. So we'll get more into that later. And then, of course, it's another registration, so it needs the same application for vehicle registration filled out. Just have the customer sign. We'll take care of the rest. I'll see you in video 5.